I'm going to show you a strategy which you can use if you find yourself in a KVK where you're not fighting usually and you're fighting at the very tail end, such as Pass 7 or Kingsland. So obviously there's a lot of changes to the way you approach your crystal technology, and it's a more economic based. And if you do these steps correct, this is how it's going to be look like. So you get all your economy side of things maxed. And don't worry, I'll show you the exact order in just a second. But first, I'm going to show you what 80 million crystals actually looks like, just like the title said. As you can see, it's very satisfying seeing everything maxed to this point, and we're almost there. And as you can see, the very tail end of the tree is barely unlocked, which is actually nice because you don't really have to worry about the tail end once you get to this point. So this is what it looks like. My final research was this, from 8 to 9. And I took a different approach from last KVK. Last KVK, I took the approach of maxing attack formation and then going my way up to March Chorus level 5, and then going more levels in the Pro Morale and Special Medicines, and then more Call to Arms. It's a strategy that you can use, but if I had to choose out of the two, I would probably choose this one because it's less thinking. Like once you get to this point, you're pretty much done. And once you're here, you just have to focus on this part of the KVK technology. Now, I have my own guide, which I have in the description of each of my videos in the last couple months. And here it is. It looks very straightforward. It shows you how you're going to do it from scratch. And I followed this to the T for quite some time until I reached this Swift Marching 3 to 4 out of 10. So usually I will follow this all the way to end, but the next up is attack formation and larger camps and attack formation once again. So this takes a huge chunk of crystals, and if you're not using those crystals to fight, it's better to skip it and get the cultural exchange to 9 and treaties, of course, because it gives you more crystals over the course of those days. I'm guessing this probably takes like 4 to 5 days, if I have to guess. Now it took a while because it's just a lot of crystals, and it takes away a lot of crystals if you don't really do it this way. Now, obviously, if you're fighting, you're going to continue the way it shows. But for this point, I really decided to do it to see if it's going to bring me more benefit, and it did. So from that point, that's the only thing I really switched. Everything else after that point, I followed again. As you can see here, marching orders, special medicines, swift marching, and then tier 3 tech. You don't need to max this to reach 80 million, like you saw in the game. And there you go. So the tips are obviously something I've followed as well. So I've been daily barb killing, but also not as much. I really didn't try to push for 80 million, but it just the way the KVK is played out and the amount of legendary bastions, which I'm going to talk about in game, it's a lot more of them than the epic ones, and they give you more percentage to the crystal production. But I also want to emphasize the fact I didn't really chain every day. I really didn't. Instead, what I've done is I didn't spend any AP during the off season and during the pre-KVK stages. I saved all my AP for the actual KVK barbs, and I put some strategy behind my AP usage. And the way I did it is I used AP with 5 marches, like not even peacekeeping marches. I used just my regular marches. So I could have been more efficient, but if I use my full marches, I kill the barbs faster, which kind of saves me time and not retreating as much. So that was my thought process behind it. And really is what you want to do is have an event live, such as like the currently had was strategic reserves, and then you want to use AP. So you get double the value. You get the boxes and you get crystals, you get the materials and all that good stuff. Then, if you're feeling up for it, You can supplement that with daily chaining if you have the time. I didn't really have that much time this KVK, but I still managed to do it. I'd also like to emphasize the second part, which is the Crystal Quest. In this KVK, I got my personal best, which was level 58. And the way I've done it is I made sure to complete every task every day, which I could. So killing the 10 barbs, doing a fort, doing a kahar, all that good stuff. And then each Wednesday, I do make sure to get all of the weekly quests done as soon as possible. And of course, I got some season quests done, such as getting 200 sovereign keys for the first time. Simply because I hoarded them during the off season, and obviously completing Karak and doing it as soon as possible, so I don't really miss out on any extra crystals. The Bastion quests, I try to do less of the ones that give you away like resources, but I still done quite a lot of them, so I could always be more patient when it comes to Bastions, but it's just I haven't done it. And if you have the patience for it, they're gonna be even more efficient, so you're gonna get there faster than me, which is something you can definitely do. And I'm gonna tell you about how different. Let's make it full screen. I'm gonna make it different in terms of Bastions. So here, Bastions, you can see there's 6 epics and there's 12 legendaries. So that is quite a significant amount of legendaries, which if you're min-maxing, which I don't really recommend, you get a lot of crystal production speed. So my thought process was I would not rather get like 1, 2, or 3 to level 10. I will get all of them to at least level 7. And obviously I emphasized more on the legendary ones. But obviously it gets kind of expensive, especially when you're getting low in speed ups and you can't really do a lot of training quests. So I improvised, did what I could. I got patient, and I got up to, I think this is also my personal best in terms of production speed. As you can see, almost 240, and in turn it gave me 27,000 an hour. You combine that with the 12.500, 12.5 from the crystal gain, you're nearly looking at 40k an hour, which is pretty good. So obviously with those calculations in mind, I got 80 million crystals, and you can replicate this in your own KVK, and I'm sure you can get to 80 million or at least 75. And you want to get at least 75 because it gives you an extra coin at that level, and I would highly recommend it because it's one of the easier ones to get, and it's probably the main reason why I wanted to get 10 million kills, and that's why I stopped at this amount. Now obviously my deads are really bad. They didn't really reinforce anything, so I'm gonna get my deads. And as far as the shops go, I got all the discounted stuff. I got the materials, I got the stones, I got one horn blueprint, and I got one hammer blueprint. I have one coin right now, and I'm not gonna use it in any of the inscriptions. I already have enough, and I find getting more for the KVK hammer is more worthwhile. And of course, the Lost Canyon shop, I got all of the legendary ones, and I got the blue flag. Next KVK, I'm gonna get the blue flag first because it's currently at 75 out of 100. So I want to put a special talent on it and use it with my Trajan March. Next up is gonna be the Shoes Return, which is gonna give me extra march speed because they're gonna make it tier 4. And of course, tier 4 for the pants, which are not as impactful as the boots, which is why they take priority. And then of course the last is the iconic, which I already have more than enough, and all of my current gear is iconic, so at least tier 1. And with all that said, Invictus KK has been very mixed. I think the idea behind it is cool, but the participants, or I should say one big participant in the KK, really kind of spoiled the experience for me personally. I think this map has potential, especially considering you have a lot more legendary bastions, especially in the starting zone, which I don't recall seeing in other KVKs so far. So definitely a big boost to crystal mine production, but also some skills. Usually the legendary bastions skills are better than the epic ones, but of course there are some exceptions, like the Belisarius one, for example. And it's a shame we never had any altar fights. I was looking forward to some altar fights, but it didn't it didn't happen in the end. So if you guys have any questions and thoughts, criticism, whatever you want, consider dropping it in the comments below and consider liking the video, subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.